Sean Combs, better known as Diddy, Puff Daddy, or that guy who always seemed to have a new nickname, was no stranger to the spotlight. The man had built an empire, Bad Boy Records, a fashion line, a vodka brand, and a charisma that could charm a snake out of its skin. But in the glitzy, cutthroat world of Hollywood, empires don't just rise, they wobble, teeter, and sometimes crash spectacularly. By 2023, Diddy's world was wobbling harder than a Jell-O tower in an earthquake, and the gossip mills were churning faster than a blender at a smoothie convention. It all started with whispers, well, more like shouts on X and tabloid headlines screaming louder than a toddler denied candy. Allegations swirled around Diddy like vultures over a desert carcass. Lawsuits piled up, each one juicier than the last, accusing him of everything from shady business deals to wild parties that made Caligula's orgies look like a church potluck. The media painted him as a villain straight out of a blockbuster thriller, complete with ominous background music. "Diddy's done," screamed one headline. "Puff's pummeled," cackled another. The internet, that merciless beast, turned every rumor into a meme, with Diddy's face photoshopped onto everything from a Monopoly go-to-jail card to a still of Scarface mid-coke avalanche. But Diddy? He wasn't fazed, at least, not outwardly. The man had survived worse. The East Coast-West Coast rap wars, the loss of his mentor Biggie, and that time he tried to make making the band a cultural phenomenon. He'd always had a knack for dodging bullets, metaphorical and otherwise. So when the lawsuits hit, he didn't hide in a bunker or flee to a private island, though, let's be real, he probably owned one. Instead, he lawyered up with a team so sharp they could cut diamonds with their briefcases. This, Diddy declared to his inner circle, sipping a Ciroc martini, is just another remix. We'll flip the beat. The first major accusation came from a former associate, let's call him Jake, who claimed Diddy had stiffed him on a deal back in the early 2000s. Jake's lawsuit was a 50-page saga, alleging Diddy promised him a cut of Bad Boy's profits but delivered nothing but broken dreams and a cheap bottle of champagne. The tabloids ate it up, dubbing it the Great Puff Heist. Jake, a wiry guy with a chip on his shoulder bigger than a Grammy statue, became a media darling, giving tearful interviews about how Diddy's betrayal left him eating ramen for a decade. "I trusted him," Jake wailed on a talk show, while the host nodded gravely, as if this was Watergate 2.0. Diddy's response? A single X post, "Truth is my vibe." Stay tuned. Microphone hashtag no puff no problem. The internet lost its collective mind. Was he trolling? Professing innocence? Or just dropping a teaser for a new album? Nobody knew, but the hashtag trended for days. Meanwhile, his legal team, led by a pit bull named Vanessa Goldstein, was already dismantling Jake's claims. Vanessa, who looked like she could win a staring contest with a cobra, found holes in Jake's story big enough to drive a Bentley through. Contracts were missing, timestamps didn't add up, and Jake's evidence was shakier than a bootleg mixtape. Then came the second wave. A former nanny, a music exec, and an unnamed party planner all filed suits, each claiming Diddy owed them money, respect, or, in one case, a yacht. The yacht guy, a flamboyant character named Rico, swore Diddy had promised him a boat for organizing legendary parties. "I made his nights iconic," Rico bellowed on X, posting a blurry photo of himself with Diddy at what looked like a foam party gone wrong. The internet cackled, but the courts weren't laughing. Vanessa's team worked overtime, uncovering that Rico's yacht agreement was scribbled on a cocktail napkin and signed by someone who wasn't even Diddy. As the scandals piled up, Diddy's public image took a beating. Paparazzi camped outside his LA mansion, snapping pics of him looking unusually somber in his signature shades. Fans were divided. Some stood by their idol, chanting "Free Diddy" on X, while others unfollowed him faster than you can say canceled. His kids, ever loyal, posted cryptic messages of support, with Justin Combs sharing a throwback of Diddy teaching him to ride a bike, captioned, "Real recognize real." It was sweet, but the cynics just rolled their eyes. Behind the scenes, Diddy was a man under siege but not defeated. He spent late nights in his home studio, not making beats but strategizing with Vanessa and his PR guru, Marla. Marla, a woman who could spin a scandal like a DJ spins records, crafted a plan to remind the world who Diddy was, a mogul, a dreamer, a survivor. "We're not just fighting lawsuits," she told him, pacing his marble-floored office. "We're fighting for your legacy." Diddy nodded, his jaw tight, knowing the road ahead was longer than a Bad Boy remix. The first court date loomed like a storm cloud over Hollywood. Diddy arrived in a tailored suit, flashing his megawatt smile to the cameras, but his eyes told a different story, tired, determined, maybe a little scared. Vanessa had prepped him for battle, but the media circus outside the courthouse was something else. Protesters with signs reading "Justice for Jake," paparazzi shouting questions, and a random guy selling "Diddy did it" t-shirts for $20 a pop. It was chaos, but Diddy walked through it like Moses parting the Red Sea, head high, ready to face the music. Inside the courtroom, Vanessa was a maestro, her arguments slicing through Jake's claims with surgical precision. She presented emails, bank records, and a deposition from an old bad boy intern who swore Jake was more hanger-on than business partner. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Carter, raised an eyebrow at Jake's sob story, especially when Vanessa revealed he'd been pitching a reality show called Puff's Betrayed Me to networks. The courtroom chuckled, and Jake's face turned redder than a lobster at a boil. As the trial wrapped for the day, Diddy stepped outside, mobbed by reporters. He paused, adjusted his cufflinks, and said, "I've been through storms before. This ain't nothing but a drizzle." Classic Diddy, part bravado, part poetry. The crowd ate it up, and for a moment, it felt like the old Puff was back, untouchable, spinning scandal into swagger. But deep down, he knew this was just the first verse. The chorus, his redemption, was still to come. The Los Angeles sun beat down on the courthouse like it was auditioning for a role in a disaster flick, but inside, the air was thick with tension and the faint hum of anticipation. Sean Diddy Combs sat at the defendant's table, his tailored suit crisp, his expression a mix of defiance and calm that only a man who danced through decades of chaos could pull off. The courtroom was a circus, with reporters scribbling notes, spectators whispering, and a guy in the back row munching popcorn like he was at a matinee. Diddy's legal team, led by the indomitable Vanessa Goldstein, was ready to turn this trial into a masterclass in dismantling accusations. The second round of the Diddy saga was about to hit its stride, and Hollywood was watching like it was the season finale of a reality show. The first lawsuit, Jake's Great Puff Heist, was unraveling faster than a cheap sweater in a washing machine. Vanessa had already exposed Jake's claims as flimsier than a pop-up ad, but the other lawsuits were piling up like unpaid parking tickets. The former nanny, a stern woman named Clara who looked like she'd seen one too many late-night parties, claimed Diddy owed her back pay for emotional distress from working at his mansion. The music exec, a slick-talking guy named Marcus, accused Diddy of stealing song credits. And Rico, the yacht-obsessed party planner, was still ranting on X about his missing boat, now claiming it was a symbol of broken promises. The internet had a field day, with memes of Diddy sailing away on a yacht labeled Rico's Dreams going viral. Vanessa, with her razor-sharp mind and a glare that could make a statue sweat, took it all in stride. She'd built a war room in her office, complete with whiteboards covered in timelines and post-it notes that looked like a conspiracy theorist fever dream. "We're not just fighting lawsuits," she told Diddy over a late-night coffee, her voice steady as steel. "We're fighting a narrative. They want you to be the bad guy, Sean. We're rewriting the script." Diddy nodded, swirling his Ciroc in a glass, his mind racing. He'd always been a storyteller, through music, through brands. But this was the ultimate remix, his reputation. The courtroom became a stage, and Vanessa was the director. Clara's case was up next, and she took the stand with the gravitas of a soap opera star. She spun tales of chaotic parties, unpaid overtime, and emotional scars from cleaning up after Diddy's A-list bashes. "I deserve compensation," she declared, clutching a tissue like it was an Oscar. The spectators ate it up, but Vanessa was unmoved. She cross-examined Clara with the precision of a surgeon, revealing that Clara had signed a contract with clear terms, cashed every paycheck, and even posted selfies from Diddy's parties with captions like "Living the Dream." The courtroom snickered, and Clara's credibility took a nosedive. Marcus, the music exec, was a tougher nut to crack. He claimed Diddy had taken credit for a hit song they'd co-written in the 90s, a claim that stung Diddy more than the others. Music was his soul, his legacy, and the idea of being called a thief in that arena hit deep. Marcus had receipts, old demo tapes, emails, even a grainy video of them in the studio, vibing to the track in question. The media went wild, dubbing it the song snatch scandal. But Vanessa, ever the alchemist, turned the narrative around. She dug up contracts showing Marcus had been paid royalties for years and had even thanked Diddy in a magazine interview for putting me on. When she presented this in court, Marcus's smug grin faded faster than a one-hit wonder. Rico's yacht claim, though, was pure comedy. He showed up to court in a captain's hat, waving that infamous cocktail napkin like it was the Declaration of Independence. "This is my proof," he bellowed, while the judge, Carter, pinched the bridge of her nose like she was praying for patience. Vanessa didn't even break a sweat. She called a handwriting expert who confirmed the napkin's signature wasn't Diddy's, and a bartender from the party who swore Rico was so drunk he tried to sign a bar tab with a crayon. The courtroom erupted in laughter, and Rico's case sank faster than the Titanic. Outside the courtroom, Diddy's PR guru, Marla, was working overtime. She orchestrated subtle moves to keep Diddy's image afloat, a charity event for underprivileged kids, a heartfelt ex-post about his mother, Janice, and a surprise appearance at a Bad Boy reunion concert that had fans screaming, "He's still the king." One fan tweeted, while another posted a gif of Diddy dancing in the "Imo Money, Imo Problems" video, captioned, "Can't stop, won't stop." Marla knew the public's memory was short, but the internet's was eternal. She had to keep the narrative shifting, one viral moment at a time. Diddy, though, wasn't just relying on his team. He was reflecting, maybe for the first time in years. Late at night, in his sprawling LA mansion, he'd sit by the pool, staring at the city lights, wondering how it had come to this. He built Bad Boy from nothing, turned dreams into platinum records, but now he was fighting to prove he wasn't a villain. His kids, Justin, Christian, and the twins kept him grounded, calling him daily, reminding him who he was. "Your dad, not a headline," Christian told him in a late-night call, and Diddy felt a lump in his throat. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for them. The trials dragged on, each day a new headline, a new meme, a new battle. But Vanessa's strategy was working. One by one, the lawsuits started to crumble under the weight of her evidence and the plaintiff's contradictions. Judge Carter, who'd seen her share of Hollywood drama, began to lean in Diddy's favor, her rulings sharp and fair. The media, sensing the tide turning, started to hedge their bets, with some outlets running pieces like, "Is Diddy the real victim?" It was premature, but it gave Diddy's team a glimmer of hope. As the second round of hearings wrapped, Diddy stepped out of the courthouse, the LA sun glinting off his shades. The crowd was smaller now, the t-shirt guy long gone, but the cameras still flashed. "We're just getting started," Diddy said, his voice smooth as ever, though his smile was tighter than before. He knew the fight wasn't over. The lawsuits were only part of the war. The real battle was for the court of public opinion. And in that arena, Diddy was ready to drop the mic. The Los Angeles courthouse had become a second home for Sean Diddy Combs, its marble halls echoing with the clatter of reporters' keyboards and the buzz of spectators placing bets on his fate. By mid-2024, the Diddy saga had morphed into a cultural phenomenon, a mix of courtroom drama, tabloid frenzy, and social media circus. The man who'd once ruled the charts with swagger was now navigating a minefield of lawsuits, memes, and public opinion sharper than a paparazzo's lens. But Diddy wasn't just surviving, he was fighting back, armed with a legal team that could outmaneuver a chess grandmaster and a resolve that burned brighter than a Bad Boy music video. The third act of Diddy's legal odyssey was less about the courtroom and more about the man behind the headlines. The lawsuits, Jake's great Puff Heist, Clara's nanny meltdown, Marcus's song-snatching claims, and Rico's yacht obsession, were starting to crumble like a stale cookie under Vanessa Goldstein's relentless cross-examinations. Judge Carter, with her no-nonsense demeanor and a stare that could freeze lava, had dismissed Rico's case outright, calling it a nautical fantasy unfit for this court. The courtroom roared with laughter, and Rico stormed out, still clutching his captain's hat, muttering about justice and yacht vibes. X lit up with gifs of Diddy winking, captioned, "Sail away, Rico." But the real turning point came with Marcus's case, the one that hit Diddy hardest. The music execs claimed that Diddy stole song credits wasn't just about money, it was personal, a dagger aimed at the heart of Diddy's legacy as a music mogul. Marcus had evidence, old studio footage, scribbled lyric sheets, and a demo tape that sounded suspiciously like a Bad Boy classic. The media dubbed it the beat burglary, and for a moment, even Diddy's staunchest fans wavered. Was their hero a thief? The doubt stung worse than any lawsuit, and Diddy felt it. Late at night, he'd pace his home studio, replaying old tracks, wondering if his empire was built on sand. Vanessa, though, was a legal sorceress. She didn't just defend Diddy, she rewrote the story. Digging through archives, She unearthed a paper trail showing Marcus had been paid handsomely for his contributions, including a bonus check Diddy had personally signed. She found witnesses, producers, engineers, even a studio intern who'd since become a TikTok star, who testified that Marcus was more hype man than hitmaker. The clincher? A 1998 interview where Marcus called Diddy a genius who made my dreams real. Vanessa played the clip in court, and Marcus squirmed like a kid caught stealing cookies. The judge's raised eyebrow said it all. Case closed. Clara's nanny lawsuit followed a similar script. Her tales of emotional distress from cleaning up after Diddy's parties were dramatic, but Vanessa's cross-examination was a masterclass in shade. She presented Clara's own ex-posts from the time, showing her posing with celebs at Diddy's mansion, grinning like she'd won the lottery. "Does this look like distress?" Vanessa asked, holding up a photo of Clara clinking glasses with a rapper. The courtroom chuckled, and Clara's case collapsed faster than a bad reality show. With the lawsuits faltering, Diddy's PR guru, Marla, shifted into high gear. She knew the courtroom wins were only half the battle. The public's perception was the real prize. Marla orchestrated a media blitz that was pure genius. A documentary snippet about Diddy's early days, narrated by his mother, Janice, who stole hearts with her stories of young Sean's hustle. A surprise performance at a charity gala, where Diddy dedicated a song to Second Chances, had the crowd in tears. And a viral X campaign, #DiddyTruth, featured fans and artists sharing stories of his generosity. One post, from a producer Diddy had mentored, went viral. "He gave me a shot when no one else would." That's the real Puff. But the emotional weight of the ordeal was taking its toll. Diddy, the man who'd always seemed untouchable, was human after all. He confided in his kids, who became his rock. One night, over dinner at his Miami estate, his daughter Chance looked at him with those big, earnest eyes and said, "Daddy, you're still our superhero." Diddy laughed, but his throat tightened. He wasn't fighting for fame or fortune anymore. He was fighting for them, for the legacy he'd leave behind. His team saw it too. Vanessa, usually all business, softened during a late-night strategy session, telling him, "Sean, you're not just a client. You're a movement." The media began to pivot. Outlets that had once vilified Diddy started running think pieces with titles like, "Is Diddy down but not out?" and "The Comeback King?" X was abuzz with fans posting old bad boy videos, reminding the world why they'd loved him in the first place. Even the memes softened, with one showing Diddy dodging lawsuits like Neo in The Matrix, captioned, "Can't touch this." The tide was turning, but Diddy knew better than to celebrate too soon. Hollywood was fickle, and one wrong move could send him back to square one. As the third round of hearings loomed, Diddy prepared for the final push. Vanessa had one last ace up her sleeve, a surprise witness, a former bad boy exec who'd been silent for years. This mystery figure, she hinted, would blow the remaining claims out of the water. Diddy didn't know the details. Vanessa loved her dramatic reveals, but he trusted her. Stepping out of the courthouse after another day of testimony, he faced the cameras with his signature grin, but his words carried weight. "This ain't just my story," he said, voice steady. "It's for everyone who's been counted out and kept going." The crowd cheered, and for the first time in months, Diddy felt the old fire reignite. The final act was coming, and he was ready to take the stage. The Los Angeles courthouse, once a battleground of accusations and flashbulbs, now hummed with a different energy, anticipation, like the final note of a symphony hanging in the air. By late 2024, Sean Diddy Combs had weathered a storm that would have sunk lesser moguls. The lawsuits that had threatened to topple his empire, Jake's great Puff Heist, Clara's nanny sob story, Marcus's song-snatching saga, and Rico's yacht delusion, lay in tatters, shredded by Vanessa Goldstein's legal wizardry. But the final act wasn't just about winning in court. It was about reclaiming a legacy, rewriting a narrative, and proving that Diddy, the king of reinvention, could rise from the ashes like a phoenix in a tailored suit. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension and the faint scent of overpriced cologne. Judge Carter, her patience thinner than a demo tape, presided with the calm of a general before a decisive battle. Vanessa, Diddy's legal pit bull, had promised a bombshell, a surprise witness who would seal the deal. Speculation ran wild on X, with users guessing everyone from a former bad boy artist to a secret whistleblower. One meme showed Diddy high-fiving a mystery figure in a cape, captioned, "Who's saving Puff now?" Diddy, sitting at the defendant's table, kept his cool, his shades reflecting the courtroom lights, but inside, his heart pounded. This was it, the final verse. The witness was Tanya, a former bad boy exec who'd vanished from the industry years ago, now living quietly in Atlanta. When she took the stand, the room went silent. Tanya, with a voice steady as a metronome, unraveled the last threads of the plaintiff's cases. She'd worked closely with Jake, Clara, and Marcus, and her testimony was a wrecking ball. Jake? A hustler who'd exaggerated his role at Bad Boy, pocketing bonuses while claiming poverty. Clara? A nanny who'd bragged about her cushy gig to colleagues. Marcus? A collaborator who'd signed off on every contract but now wanted a bigger slice of the pie. Tanya's evidence, emails, memos, even a recorded phone call where Marcus admitted Diddy made him rich was airtight. The courtroom gasped, and Vanessa's lips curled into a rare, triumphant smile. Judge Carter didn't waste time. With Tanya's testimony and Vanessa's mountain of evidence, she dismissed the remaining lawsuits with a ruling that echoed like a gavel slam across Hollywood. Frivolous, unfounded, and a waste of this court's time. The spectators erupted, some cheering, others whispering in shock. Diddy exhaled, his shoulders loosening for the first time in months. Outside, the media swarm was relentless, but Diddy's statement was pure poetry. The truth don't need a remix. It just needs a mic. The crowd roared, and X exploded with hashtag Diddy cleared trending worldwide. The aftermath was a whirlwind. Marla, Diddy's PR maestro, turned the victory into a cultural moment. A Bad Boy reunion concert sold out in minutes, with fans chanting Puff, Puff, like it was 1997. A Netflix documentary, Diddy, The Comeback, dropped, chronicling his rise, fall, and redemption, with cameos from his kids and Janice, who stole the show with her quip, "My son's been through worse than this and still shines." Marla even got Diddy on a late-night show, where he cracked jokes about Rico's yacht obsession. "Man, I don't even like boats," while tearing up when asked about his kids' support. The audience gave him a standing ovation, and the host, wiping a tear, said, "Puff, you're untouchable." But the victory wasn't just public. Behind closed doors, Diddy was changed. The ordeal had forced him to face his flaws, his larger-than-life persona, his tendency to move fast and trust blindly. Late one night, in his Miami mansion, he sat with his kids, the city lights twinkling outside. Justin, Christian, Chance, and the twins shared stories, laughing about old times, but their pride in him was palpable. "You showed him, Dad," Chance said, hugging him. Diddy, usually quick with a quip, just nodded, his eyes misty. He'd fought for them, for his name, for the kid from Harlem who dreamed big. The internet, once a battlefield of memes and hate, softened. Fans posted throwbacks of Diddy's hits, from "I'll Be Missing You" to "Bad Boy for Life," celebrating his resilience. A viral X thread listed 10 times Diddy proved he's unbreakable, with clips of his courtroom swagger and charity work. Even the cynics admitted he'd pulled off the impossible, a Hollywood comeback in an era of cancel culture. One user summed it up: Diddy took the LS and turned M into AW. Respect. As 2025 dawned, Diddy was back on top, but different. He launched a mentorship program for young artists, pouring his wisdom into the next generation. Bad Boy signed new talent, and his fashion line dropped a collection called Truth, with every piece embroidered with a subtle nod to his journey. He even hosted a yacht party. Ironic, yes, for charity, tweeting, "No Rico, but plenty of love." Hashtag Diddy Truth. The crowd laughed, but the gesture was real. Diddy was giving back, proving he was more than the headlines. Standing on his balcony, Ciroc in hand, Diddy looked out at the horizon. The lawsuits were gone, the doubters silenced, but the scars remained. He'd learned the hard way that empires aren't built on fame alone. They're built on truth, grit, and the people who stand by you. "Can't stop, won't stop," he murmured, a smile breaking through. The king was back, not just for himself, but for everyone who believed in second chances. And in Hollywood, where stories are currency, Diddy's redemption was the blockbuster of the year.